I'm worried about the tariffs.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that tariffs are going to cause inflation. President Trump did them in his first term, and they didn't. I'm saying that we just don't know. We're in very obscure territory. We're in uncharted waters. I think if the tariffs do start to cause inflation, I think the president will back away from them. And I'm not saying that I don't trust President Trump, but you know, there's another saying, you know, trust in God, but tie up your camel. The single most important thing, the things that moms and dads worry about when they lie down to sleep at night and can't. And the thing they expect the president to fix is high prices.
I say, I think they're starting to be worried about this trade war because Senator Kennedy there, while doing a bit of a hate crime against Foghorn Leghorn, is doing everything he can to push back against it because he knows the tariffs are gonna be absolutely devastating to businesses, but also it's gonna be highly inflationary. Now, he can't just come out and say that. He's not like a full adult man who can have his own opinions and express them. Perish the thought. Instead, he has to be like, no, obviously Trump is the best. Smartest guy ever, economy amazing during his first term. I'd let him sleep with my wife. But all that said, I'm a little bit worried. So I'm gonna be, if I'm folksy, can I push back? Just a little pushback if I'm being folksy. So he has to manage his image or whatever, but he's also terrified about what's going to happen. And so, yeah, no, the tariffs are gonna be super inflationary. But I don't even want to go into the whole thing about whether it was inflationary in the first term, but whether it was or not, these are not the same tariffs. They're against all of our biggest trade partners. They're much bigger as well. And also more chaotic. He didn't just do it. He said he was gonna do it and then he waited. And then he did it and then he took it back. And then he waited a month and then he did it again. And now, as we'll get to, he's taking it back. It's chaotic on top of everything else. Chaos, crime, and corruption, as I always say. And it isn't just Senator Kennedy, which is good because just him alone, that's barely anything. No, we've got other senators as well who are also worried about this. Take a look.
Almost every industry in Kentucky has come to me and said it will hurt our industry and push up prices of homes, cars, and so I'm going to continue to argue against tariffs.
Should he back off of it if it starts to hurt the constituents?
When we start losing, you back off. You know, there's such a thing as a strategic retreat. At the end of the day, I think we have more leverage than any other nation, but we got to be smart, and we don't have all the leverage.
Okay, so that is true. That's Rand Paul was the first senator. Thom Tillis is the second. We'll be talking about him a little bit more in a second. And so you got Kennedy, you got Rand Paul, and you got Thom Tillis. All together, you've got a couple vertebrae. You don't have a spine or anything like that, but you got a little bit because they're worried, and they're worried for a couple of different reasons. Which is, when you combine all of them, it's enough to make me think that maybe they'll be successful in getting him to back off, which is buttressed by the fact that he keeps kind of backing off. And again, we'll talk about more of that later. So why are they worried? Why would they be worried about this? Are they worried because they care about their constituents and they don't want the price of everyday goods to go up? No, I don't think that they care literally at all about that. But it's bad for business. I mean, you don't have to guess. You can look at the stock market. It's utterly chaotic. It's been a terrible time to be very wealthy. Not nearly as terrible as not being wealthy, but compared to how cushy the wealthy had it previously, it's slightly worse. And they're not gonna stand for that. Look at what they're willing to do to our democracy to make a little bit more money that they'll never spend. They worked hard in buying our politicians and rigging the system to make that money. You think they're gonna let Trump just set it on fire now? And so it's bad for business, and those businesses are their main donors, not just big donors to Donald Trump, but big donors to Kennedy and to Paul and to Tillis as well. But then there's the more direct issue. And here specifically, we have to talk about Thom Tillis, because Thom Tillis is a Republican senator of North Carolina. And it's not like he's up for re-election next week, but he is up for re-election next time. And we keep talking about how naturally devastating the midterms tend to be for the party in power. And Trump is, of course, going to challenge mode, trying to make it as hard for his party as possible. That's not an abstract thing. If the midterms are hard for the Republicans, they're especially hard for certain Republicans. And I don't know if right now in the Senate, there's a Republican who's gonna be up for re-election in 2026 who's gonna have a harder time than Thom Tillis. Public policy polling just put out a poll. He is at a 25% approval rating. towing companies are at like 35%, and he's at 25%. So this is not a great place to start off with. And he's at 25% when the economy isn't in free fall. And so as people get more mad in general about the chaos and instability, as they get more mad at Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the senators who aren't doing anything to stop them, that number can really only go down from there. And so they're starting to freak out because look, Donald Trump, if he loses the Senate, if he loses the House, is he overly concerned about that? Well, he's certainly not acting right now as if he's worried about that. But there are certainly benefits to taking over the Senate. We were talking at our production meeting, like it would be great to have a firewall against some absolutely insane right winger replacing Clarence Thomas or something in a couple years. But to get that, we have to knock off a couple of Republican senators, and he's probably, public enemy number one when it comes to that. So whether he's able to successfully stop the trade war or not, he has to get out there and look like he's trying to stop it, because the damage is gonna be real, and it's gonna be real in North Carolina as well. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.